Writing code is a constant push and pull on your development skills. First, you write some code and test it to see if it works the way you intended. Then as the project progresses, you think about ways to improve and change the code. Some people call this rewriting refactoring. Regardless of how you define it, Visual Studio has refactoring tools to help. If you are a C# developer, then you don't have to do anything special, as there are about 10 refactoring tools built into Visual Studio. If you are a Visual Basic programmer, you should download the free CodeRush Express tool, which provides dramatic code refactoring support. I'm inside Visual Studio, and I've opened the Refactor Your Code solution, which contains a C# and a Visual Basic project. I'll start my refactoring journey by going to program.cs. A common refactoring is when you need to rename something. I'm going to rename this variable. So I'll put my cursor on the variable, then I'll right-click and choose Refactor. Then I'll choose Rename. Also note the keystrokes, Control-R, Control-R. Now during this refactoring, a dialog box will appear. I can type in my new variable name, and then I can choose to preview the changes inside a dialog. I can also choose where to search for this word. I'm going to click OK, and here's my preview screen. It shows that it's going to change line 13. It's a little bit harder to see, but it shows it's also going to change line 18. These changes look good to me, so I'm going to click the Apply button, and I successfully changed those 2 lines of code. Next, I want to save the method name. So I'll click on the Save Book, which I'm using twice. I'm using on line 21 and on line 18. I'm going to click here and use the keystrokes, Control-R, Control-R. Make a slight change, call this Save the Book. Again, choose to preview reference changes, and it shows in my preview screen several places where this code is going to be updated. I can click through these different elements up here to look. I'll click on Apply, and if I look in the book.cs file, I'll also see that it changed it successfully over here. Next, I want to go to the MathLib file and show you the extract method refactor. I look at this code and I'm thinking, I want to reuse this in my application. It shouldn't live entirely inside this calculate paint needed method. So what I can do is come over here, choose Refactor, Extract Method. I'll get the dialog box again. I think the new name should be called Calc Area. And as you can see, Visual Studio wrote a new function for me, copied my code down there to line 24, and then changed my code on line 17 to call that method and pass in the necessary information that's needed for this function. Next, I'm going to switch back to the book and show you the reorder parameter function. I have 3 parameters here. We decided on our team that this first string variable belongs at the end. So what I do is I put my cursor on Save the Book, choose the Refactor menu, and then choose this one, Reorder Parameters. Another dialog crops up. It shows the 3 parameters. I'm going to pick this first parameter and then the down arrow, click on it twice to move it to the end of the parameter list. I feel good about not previewing my changes, so I'm going to click on OK. And now you see the parameters move to the 3rd position. Now this is a bit tricky because I'm calling this function from a couple of areas in my code, calling it over here in program.cs. So let's verify that it changed correctly over there. Yes, it did. Look on line 18. File path is now the last argument, and this string down here is also the last argument. My last refactoring for C# is going to be extract interface. That's a common refactoring pattern. I'm going to go to this book class, and I want to take these 2 properties, title and price, and I want to pull them out of the class and put them in a common interface. So I'll choose the book class, invoke the refactor menu, choose extract interface, and then look at this interface name and see if it meets my requirements. I like iBook. Next, I come down and I choose the 2 properties. I want to leave the method inside the class, and then click OK. Visual Studio creates a brand new file over here, ibook.cs, extracts my interface, and then correctly fixes up my code in the book class to implement that interface. If you're a Visual Basic programmer, you don't have refactoring in Visual Studio by default. The good news is if you like what you see in Express, it's also available for C# programmers. If you plan on following along with me in this demo, you need to install the Express tools. I've included those in the installer folder inside your exercise file folder. So you go to installers and then run this Express installer. When I ran Visual Studio the next time after installing DevExpress, it asked me how I would like to run DevExpress, and I told it to let me load it manually when I start up the application. So I'm going to go to this menu, DevExpress, and pick Load. Immediately, you'll see some changes in my C# code. It's now drawing a red line between my curly braces and other colored lines between like my if statements here. It will also do the same thing over in my VB code. There are more refactoring tools in Visual Studio. I've only shown a few of them in this movie. If you like Visual Basic, then check out the VB refactoring title in this chapter.